to our weekly discussion. Today, we will discuss the war in Karabakh and some significant issues surrounding this growing, deadly conflict. I'm Dr. Joanne Lasosky, journalist, educator, and author. Joining me today to discuss this escalating war is Leyla Aliyeva, Russian and East European Studies affiliate at Oxford School of Global and Area Studies at the University of Oxford, and Arif Shakmarli, former Azerbaijani ambassador to the COE and the European Union. It's a very sad time across the world, but even more so in the Nagorno-Karabakh region. This war has escalated to include at least 28 civilian deaths in Azerbaijan. This is an international crime, according to the Geneva Conventions. Putin has said that the war is not in Armenia. Thus, he is not about to get involved. But these provocations, tell me a little bit about these provocations, Leyla. Are these provocations being waged in order to bring Putin into this conflict?
This is actually a very popular concept, which is widely circulated. It originates in Russia, but then it's spread all over in Azerbaijan, and I think through the official sources. And I think it might be just the concept of Russia to present herself as the non-biased and, external observer, and to put all the blame on Armenia, in a sense to aggravate even more the animosity between the two actors. I mean, there is no question that Armenia is sort of expecting the support from CSTO and Russia in terms of the defense and military issues. But here I would be quite cautious in just saying that there is for sure, or with confidence, that the other side is trying to involve Russia and CSTO. So maybe Arif Bey has other interpretation of that.
Do you think that there's a provocation in bombing the pipelines? Is that to provoke Russia to get more involved, or is that to provoke Turkey to get more involved?
It's very hard actually to tell whether there is a coordinated action and who is the initiator of that. If this is actually the undermining the security of pipelines is most beneficial to Russia. So I think it's very hard to decide who is the leading actor here, whether it's Russia or Armenia, and who is submissive to whom, because basically what is the major emerging concept of what's going on in the region is that Russia and Turkey may get involved in proxy war. But there is certain indication that there might be some agreement on coordination even between Turkey and Russia. But again, it's very hard to say because we don't have enough information about ongoing talks and behind the scene. We know exactly that Russia's foreign ministry said that we have permanent consultation with Armenian party. So this connection never stopped. And recently, at the same time, Russia was saying very pro-Azerbaijani, making pro-Azerbaijani statements. Like very recently, Putin said himself that Karabakh is Azerbaijan. So I'm sure Russia is playing in, both hands, and it never stopped doing that. That's my impression.
So Russia is the puppet master once again. a position that Russia really, that appeals to Putin and Russia to be the puppet master of everything that's going on. Arif, Turkey, I wanted to talk to you, Arif, a little bit about the whole idea of how could this have been avoided? What happened? Why did this happen? Why did this frozen conflict turn into a heated conflict?
Unfortunately, yes, the frozen conflict that we knew for over 27 years turned to heated conflict. I regret that because whenever the diplomacy fails, the cannons start speaking. I would prefer that diplomats would speak around the table, but with the results. When there are no results, the possibility of cannon speaking instead of diplomats is much higher. Unfortunately, I believe that what we see now is the result of the failure of regional diplomacy, but also of the players that are engaged in a peaceful resolution of the conflict. I believe that the OSCE Minsk group failed because of position of 3 co-chairs. I would also think that I also believe that all 3 co-chairs should be more active. We have seen recently active role of 1 co-chair or 2 co-chairs, but I think that it's important that all 3 co-chairs be engaged in the peace process. And I believe that in the end of 90s, we have seen when 3 co-chairs were working together, and it was giving the result. I think that the best deal that was achieved up to now was the Key West talks between in the United States and Florida. It was Paul Goebel plan, which provided for liberation of 7 occupied regions and exchange of the corridors between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, and giving the adequate corridor between Karabakh and Armenia proper, but also economic cooperation, opening of transport infrastructure. Unfortunately, this plan didn't work. There was firing in the Armenian parliament as a result of this attack in the Armenian parliament. Key politicians, including the president of the parliament, many people died, and after that, these peace talks almost were frozen. Since that, I didn't see that we had any good period. Normally, we have seen after that Madrid peace talks, Kazan talks, but nothing was realized on the ground. Armenia was refusing to liberate territories, and I believe that it was a big mistake. And I believe personally, I believe that even if in one country we have a democratically elected prime minister, Pashinyan came as a result of the revolution in Armenia, I believe that he can initiate, as a democratic leader, he can be more pushy in peace talks. But unfortunately, he was overwhelmed by the nationalistic voices, and his rhetoric became even more radical than his predecessors, who were not democratically elected. And both Kocharan, during the Kocharan and Sarkisyan period, we have seen at least some process. But Pashinyan did several irritating steps, like holding some inauguration in Shusha, holding lots of even Armenian National Council meetings in Karabakh proper, visited several times Karabakh. He sent his son to serve in the military in Karabakh. his wife was posing with the Kalashnikov in Karabakh just a month before this conflict started. And I believe that this was counterproductive. It was also the pressure on Aliyev was increasing because public was saying that, oh, what are you doing? That you see, Pashinyan is holding National Security Council meetings in Karabakh. His wife is with Kalashnikov, just firing on the ground, and his son is serving there. Where is your military? Where is Azerbaijani military capacity that you were talking about? And finally, I think that we had what we have been expecting. There have been in Tammuz, probably the first signal was the confrontation in Tammuz. It was in confrontation, 3 days war. It was far from the Karabakh. It was in Tammuz region, firing on the border. But that time, probably Russia intervened, and this military activity was stopped. After that, we have seen, more tension between Russia and Azerbaijan. We have seen lots of flights to Nagorno-Karabakh from Russia, and and also to Armenia. Russian defense minister said that it was construction materials. Of course, it wasn't. And in Russia, chair of the committee on of the State Duma said yes, it was military equipment for Armenia. So that probably from August we have seen that the war is inevitable. I was expecting the war to start. Even one of my online programs that I do on Facebook was that pandemia of the bigger war. And I predict that this war would be a regional war with involvement of more regional powers. And what we see now is likely that the war might turn to regional war. We see Iran concentrating its military on the border with Azerbaijan. Today we have today a Russian president said that yes, we stick to our obligations in the collective security agreement, but for now the military activity is within Azerbaijan. It's not between Azerbaijan and Armenia, but lots of firings that happened on the key infrastructure in depth of Azerbaijan, like in Baku, in Absheron. There was firing to Absheron, to Khizr region, which is close to Baku, to Mengechevir electric station, hydroelectric station. And if the missile would strike one of the energy blocks of the Mengechevir station, all Azerbaijan would be turned to the darkness. And if it would strike the dam in hydroelectric station, half of Azerbaijan would be underwater. So both sides are, showing their muscles. Armenia threatened to use, if necessary, Iskander missiles, which are long-range missiles, which are these missiles are terrifying the Europe. Only from the other countries, apart from Russia, only Armenia has Iskander missiles. And Iskander, one fire of Iskander can destroy half of the city. It is equal to the nuclear strike. Can you imagine the power? And of course, Azerbaijan also have kinds of weapons that we can answer. So both sides are threatening to use more powerful weapons, but fortunately, it happened. It didn't happen yet, but it might happen. If there is no solution within the next few days, I am afraid that these boundaries of the war zone can can go further. Probably both sides understand that it's inevitable. It's in proximity. When you fire the weapon, the missile, it might fall on your territory, and we have seen that now Armenia fires the missiles which come to Absheron, which is in near to the capital, and Ganja, the second biggest city of Azerbaijan, is under fire. Barda, Tartar, Akjabadi, and other important cities are being attacked. So unfortunately, we don't see any light yet in the end of the tunnel. That's it.
Well, Arif, thank you very much. Much information. So essentially, the peace failed, and there's much blame to go around. And Leyla, I want to talk a little bit about Turkey's role. And Turkey's role in this conflict, in this war, has been suggested to be moral support. And what complications does that bring into the conflict? Turkey's addressing this as moral support.
Taking into account historical context and the image of Armenians as victims of Turkey Ottoman Empire in Europe, that's where sort of Azerbaijan more or less belongs to in terms of the organizations, multilateral organizations and things like that. Turkey so far has been restrained in its involvement in the region, and we know, unlike Russia, who was participating militarily in the early years, Turkey has never done it, and it limited its involvement by the joining economic sanctions against. So that was not the equal, it was not the counterbalance. And that's one of the reasons why Azerbaijan also lost, because there was no military counterbalance on the other side to the Russia-Armenian alliance, military alliance. Turkey had, as you know, in the early 90s, totally different approach to the region. It wanted to be a conductor of the Western European and NATO influences to all the newly independent states. So that's why it was trying to keep sort of a neutrality, relative neutrality, of course, but after the occupation of Kelbajar, and then later it had to join the economic sanctions, but yet it was quite in the area of soft power. It was not a hard security involvement. Then for a while, Turkey withdrew because it was busy with other affairs. Azerbaijan tried to create, together with other countries who have similar security concerns, sort of an alternative alliance, alternative to Russia alliance. And that was Guam. And unfortunately, Guam didn't have its continuation, which I think a big mistake from all the parties who were around. I think EU was quite cold about that because it didn't want the security sort of organization in the Russian neighborhood. And then each of the countries went its own way, in a sense. They were staying vis-a-vis Russia, left by the security organizations of Europe or the US, just vis-a-vis Russia themselves, and they had to resolve these issues just by themselves. So each of them went their individual way. As you know, Georgia chose one way, Azerbaijan chose the other way. And because the peace talks, they sort of failed, it coincided also with the moment with the domestic changes in Turkey, and also the the new role and more bolder sort of activities as an independent foreign policy actor of Turkey in the Middle East. I think because of that, but also because there was going on all the developments and gradual escalation, political escalation in Armenia. I think the Libaridian in his article mentioned that sever agreement about the territorial claims to Turkey became part of the official policy, state policy of Armenia. And that was quite a provocative political act. So that gave Turkey also a motivation to enter the scene. It doesn't do much. It does training and, instructing as it used to do, but it does it probably more intensely. But one should not forget that Russia has been doing it for many, many years, an absolutely sort of challenged environment. Turkey just started doing it, in a sense, with the same intensity as Russia. We, of course, had encountered immediate informational war in this regard. It was used by the adversary in two directions. First, to mobilize the Western opinion that, and based on fake news, that Azerbaijan and Turkey are now committing second genocide. And the second was that Turkey, and they were bringing also the religious element in the conflict connected to Turkey's involvement by spreading the news that Turkey has brought Syrian Islamic mercenaries. And it's very interesting because this news has been spread all over. It went to Reuters, and went to Guardian, it went some other very sort of, in one of the last articles I read that the evidence of the Islamic mercenaries from the Turkish side is mounting. And I wonder whether Arif Bey could also add something about the source of this fake news and how it was. I mean, I know that Mike Pompeo, basically, on such a high level, he said that's not true. And the Georgian also officials said that there is no evidence that we never encountered the mercenaries going through Georgian territory, and that's simply lies. So maybe there are more investigations right now about the source of this news. But unfortunately, that's what's happening. But it gave, of course, a lot of inspiration to people because they felt for so long time that they're alone. They're totally alone. Armenia had, on the one hand, it had Russia. On the other hand, it had powerful influence in the Western states, in European and US, so they never felt lonely. But Azerbaijan has felt lonely all these years. And only now, when Turkey started to give these political statements, giving the support, I think that gave a lot of sort of confidence of Azerbaijani people also. And that's why there are so many, probably also so many volunteers who are going to the army. Besides, of course, that many of these people, they're originally from the regions which were ethnically cleansed, and they're just they left these regions when they were 3 to 5 years old, little kids, and they grew up, just dreaming of being able to go back home, and now they're trying to, to realize this goal. So there is a lot of motivation on the Azerbaijani side. On the other hand, I would say that was it possible to avoid the war? I think yes. I think it was when Pashinyan came to power. He came with a very liberal luggage, and he came with a very liberal views. We, of course, all expected that he will liberalize the policies regarding the Karabakh. And I even wrote the article that whether the achievements of the revolution in Armenia are possible without consolidation of these achievements, if possible without a review or reconsideration of the Karabakh policy. And I proved there that it's not possible. I mean, he definitely needs to change the security paradigm. And the security paradigm, which he came from originally, and that security paradigm is, the tradition for coming from Levonter Petrosyan, Libaritian, Ashotblian, and others, who were more oriented to the future, who were trying to get rid of the issues which are obstacles on the normal and good relationship between countries. So I'm sure he had that in mind. But unfortunately, when you come not on the basis of some economic groups or something like that, but rather on the public opinion, the populism is a core of your policies. And he was, in this regard, very much dependent on pressure coming from Russia through Karabakhis and pressure coming from diaspora. So these are two economically powerful centers which were kind of squeezing him. He was squeezed between the pressure of these two centers, and he was further and further pushed in the deadlock. And this is the evolution which we were sort of observing these 2 years, when he was becoming more and more radical instead of implementing his basically very liberal views. So I think also there is some responsibility of Azerbaijani government. Azerbaijani government could have become more accommodating. It could have shown that it can and should, it feels responsible for provision of security, prosperous lives, all the rights of the Nagorno-Karabakh population. And in this regard, it probably could have helped to soften the environment and political environment. But unfortunately, none of these things took place. So,
thank you, Leyla. It sounds like what you're saying maybe is there was a great opportunity for Azerbaijan to work with Armenia and the people in Karabakh, because there was this turmoil going on in Armenia at the time. Azerbaijan would have been a great player to come in and say, okay, we know that you're in turmoil, but we're going to help you in the Karabakh. We're going to allow things to happen. So that's going to take some pressure off the prime minister. So there was an opportunity missed, it looks like.
Yeah, that's at least that's my optimistic reading of what was happening, because I used to know him. We were part of the civil society, and so and he was the editor. He was Pashinyan.
The prime minister. Yes,
the minister was the editor of the very liberal newspaper, and
so
had a very courageous stance regarding the regional sort of relationship.
So there was a reason to be optimistic at that time.
Yeah, everyone was optimistic. I think both opposition was optimistic. Even the government was optimistic. So,
well, thank you, Leyla. You have a real personal contact to that. It's really interesting to get more of that insight. Thank you. Arif, Layla said that you could maybe talk a little bit about Turkey and this disinformation that's going on about Turkey's moral support or even some other support. And I've always been curious by the religious connotation that's been added to this conflict. And it seems like the Syrian warriors have added to that rhetoric surrounding this might be a religious war. Can you talk to that a little bit, Arif?
Thank you, Joanna. Just a couple of words on what Layla said on the Pashinyan role. And me personally, I also believe that the person with the liberal approach towards the future of the country and its development, its European role. And I thought that probably he might also break some ices in the peaceful resolution of the conflict. But immediately after Pashinyan started reforms of the fighting with corruption and trying to counter all opposition inside, he faced enormous pressure from the previous Karabakh clan, which was in power in Armenia for over 20 years. And he arrested Kocharan, which was very influential Karabakh clan leader. He squeezed some other Karabakh clan members like Sarkisyan family. And to prove to Karabakhis that he can be also, strong man for Karabakhis, he overplayed this card. He started to go more frequently than his previous predecessors to Karabakh. He sent, as I said, he sent his son. He was posing all the time. We were seeing Pashinyan more in Karabakh than in Yerevan. He overplayed this role. He wanted to prove to Armenians that he is not Karabakhi. He's not from that old clan, but he can better guarantee their security, and he failed in that. Probably he understands, and many others understand. Armenia found itself in isolation. I would say that they were expecting that all the world will support Armenia because they are Christian nation, they are old nation. They say that all the time, that there is a fight between Christianity and Islam. It doesn't fly. It doesn't fly. They cannot convince this because everyone knows that one of the biggest allies of Azerbaijan in the region is Israel. For example, in fact, our superiority in the military field is thanks to Israeli technology and Israeli weapons. While Armenia is a strong ally of the Shia Iran. And we see Russia tries to be, at least to be neutral. We see Europeans are very careful because, international law is on the side of Azerbaijan. If you would follow Pashinyan interviews to BBC, to Hard Talks, he always makes reference on ancient history. He goes to Tigran II, who was born 150 years before Jesus Christ, and saying that Armenia has a right for Karabakh because during the Tigran II rule, Karabakh was part of Greater Armenia, which was going from the Mediterranean to the Caspian. Also, he makes reference to Herodotus, ancient, Greek, historians. And the interviewers say that, Mr. Prime Minister, there is international law. We live in the 21st century. There are UN resolutions. There are principles of territorial integrity. These territories are recognized internationally, globally, as a part of Azerbaijan. And now you go and say about Tigran II or Herodotus, historian, we live in the modern world where international law is very key. Even I have seen a small video on this, very interesting. I don't know who did it. It is like you have the house. It is like you have the house. Everyone recognizes that this house belongs to you. All the papers, legal papers, say that this is your property. You have judicial proof, all the seals, that this is your. You have small rooms for neighbors. You say that please come and we will live together. But one day your neighbor who was near, he says that no, oust you out of here, and says that it's mine without any proof, without any paper. And we have been out of our home for 27 years. And now that's why Armenia tries to knock the doors. Pashinyan makes telephone calls to world leaders, but probably they say that, oh, we are sorry, we're telling you that you have to go to peace talks and liberate territories. Recently, just 3 months ago, Lavrov mentioned that Armenia should start at least liberating three regions of Azerbaijan, not 7. And immediately, Foreign Minister of Armenia, Zohrab Mtsakyan, said that no, we cannot liberate even 3 regions because this is our security belt. Why? And if Armenia would liberate even 3-5 regions, there would be international guarantees and nobody would start the war, because now nobody wants to say. Everyone says that to Pashinyan, that we are sorry, this is internationally recognized borders of Azerbaijan. Even Armenia doesn't recognize Karabakh as independent or as a republic. They say it, but it's not recognized. And now Armenia put itself in very difficulty. When it comes to Turkey, I agree with Leila that in the past, Turkey was like conductor of the Western values. They were, for security arrangements, also like the voice of NATO. That time, Turkey had much better relations with the European Union. And but now we see also Turkey moved away from the West. Relations with the European Union are the worst probably in the entire history of Europe-Turkey relationship. Turkey is more concentrating on the regions. It was also a European mistake that they let Turkey to go away from Europe, because Turkey was all the time shown that no, your place is not here. You should be in the Middle East. Stay away. And despite many years of talks about association agreement, about some kind of the association with the European Union, the doors of Europe were locked to Turkey. And finally, Turkey said, okay, if you don't like us, we are not going to knock any more your doors. In the beginning, even Erdogan was very much interested in joining the European Union. He was that time prime minister of Turkey. But I remember that Turkey was all the time turned away again and again for different reasons. And this is also big mistake of Europe, because Turkey now, we see more Turkey and Russia dividing their geopolitical areas in the Middle East. These proxy wars, they are very good now in proxy wars, Russia and Turkey. They are almost probably, when we talk about the proxy war, we think that first thing that comes to mind is how Russia and Turkey managed this. They divided the territories, highways even in Syria. I remember then when the last firing broke out in Aleppo, in Idlib region, they finally said that, okay, we control this highway. I think that highway 5 and 3 and we will patrol them together. So Europe turned away Turkey. Turkey moved closer to Russia. And Middle East, there are conflicts in Syria, in Libya, and finally we have seen Turkey supporting more and more openly Azerbaijan. We see more, of course, more rhetoric about support. Probably this is message not only to Azerbaijani people, it's very important, but it's also a message to Russia that we would be next to Azerbaijan if you want to intervene. And Putin probably heard this message. That's why we see Russia trying to avoid open confrontation with Turkey, because Turkey showed its capacity to fight. It is the second army at NATO after US, and it is not only big on number, it is combat army. This army has been fighting for the last 10 years at least in Syria, in Libya, and of course now Russia tries to stay away, but Turkey is watching. Turkey said that if it's needed, when it says if it is needed, it means that if Russia intervenes, we would be openly supporting Azerbaijan, and I think that this is their position. But I said during our last discussion that there are many geopolitics, like regional geopolitics. If we open the vision, angle, we can see interest even up to China. We talk about Silk Way, a possibility of Silk Way passing through South Caucasus. We see also Iran. We see Israel, because for Israel the issue of national security is Iran, and why Israel is so supportive of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan was very helpful to Israel through these years in providing different information to Israel on Iran, and according to media, like Israeli media, and also some other information that Azerbaijan has been very key ally for Israel in the region when it comes to Iran nuclear development and etc. etc. So we see very complicated situation. Turkey, yesterday, Foreign Minister of Turkey, Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, came to Azerbaijan. Again, he expressed full support of Azerbaijani position. He said that we are on the side of Azerbaijan and we will be always aligning with Azerbaijan. But I believe that now something should be done to stop the war now, because it's only the 10th day of the military confrontation. Hundreds of people died, if not thousands. If we hear different sources, we say that over 3,000 Armenian military have been destroyed. Armenians say the same, high numbers. So at least already we can say that at least between 2,000 and 5,000 people already died. It is a huge loss to the young people. Most of them are 18, 19 years old conscripts, civilian casualties, but also militarily both countries are quite exhausted. And again, Russia, as a main seller of the weapons, are getting out of this, because at least both Azerbaijan and Armenia will need to replace the military equipment that have been destroyed or damaged, or even to buy some ammunition to use this, and of course Russia will again probably will sell even at higher price its military equipment, so that unfortunately ordinary Azeris people are dying, civilians are dying, soldiers are dying, but we see a big geopolitical game, and I am afraid that finally it's not the people who win of the region win the final battle, but regional players would try to benefit for the best of their national interests and geopolitical interests, economic interests, oil interests, and other interests. But I regret that lots of people are dying.
And that is what's horrific. Thank you, Arif. Last time we talked, you said that the U.S. must get involved. And that current involvement, has now resulted in a bill before the U.S. House of Representatives. Do you think that this kind of rhetorical support it seems like it's support for Armenia right now, but can this sort of push the peace process maybe a little bit? Is this a possibility that this bill in the U.S., there's been letters from Mike Pompeo and his counterpart in France there, and now we have a bill before the U.S. Congress. Is this what you meant by an effective strategy to sort of maybe push peace?
Joanna, I believe that if one country or the group of countries want to mediate, what they have to try to be as neutral as possible. If you are on the side of one, you lose the sympathy of other. That's why, for example, we don't have neutral player now. We have, for example, Turkey openly supporting Azerbaijan. We see Russia more supportive of Armenia. We see France more on the side of Armenia. So we need some neutral mediator. I believe, like, when I was ambassador to the European Union, I've seen Finland was very active, and probably countries like Finland, which is neutral, like maybe Germany, which tries to keep the right balance between two countries, can play the bigger role. But in Azerbaijan, we believe that Macron is purely pro-Armenian. Armenians don't want to hear anything about Turkey role. We don't want to hear about Russian role. So that we need neutral country which knows the region, which has had experience in negotiation. I believe, for example, again, I would say that countries like Finland can play a very important role. They know the region. They know history. We had great Finnish diplomats who were dealing with Nagorno-Karabakh problem. I remember Heikki Talvitie, who was EU Special Representative for the South Caucasus. We had Finland playing the important role in the past. They are open-minded. They are Nordic people. They always suggest something which can be beneficial for two sides. But I don't think that pro-Armenian resolution can play a positive role. There should be a resolution which both sides would see as neutral. If the balance is broken, then it will be very difficult to play the broker role, unfortunately.
So it's surprising to me how many representatives have signed on to this. And I suggest that many of them do not know that Azerbaijan has the territorial integrity of this region. They are just listening to the prime minister from Armenia saying this is Armenian genocide. I mean, that's a very powerful word in US politics, is genocide. And just using that word is what is maybe causing some of these representatives to sort of sign into this without really knowing that the territory belongs to Azerbaijan.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, unfortunately, we see the world where, international law, former international frameworks are being broken. We see that WTO, even WTO, like Council of Europe, European Union is much weaker institutions that they used to be in the past. This genocide issue, of course, we know that Armenian lobby is very strong in the United States, in California, in Florida, and they will try to push the Congress to take some resolutions which would be anti-Azeri. But I don't think that it would be helpful for the White House to play the bigger role, because we know that Congress' role in foreign policy is very important. I believe that probably the State Department can try to influence the Congress to have a resolution which makes United States more neutral player. Otherwise, it wouldn't be accepted. And I don't think that today sides do care about international opinion. Even now, we see lots of damages. Civilians died. And I believe that both sides are ready, and Azerbaijan is ready to clean its territory. It is widely supported, very much supported by the public. Conscripts go to the military commissariats to go to fight. That's why there is no need for mercenaries, as people say. That why we need mercenaries when we turn our military commissariats are turning out people, saying that we don't need so much people. But
the public is very supportive in Armenia as well. So yeah, the public opinion on both sides is very high for this conflict.
Yeah, public opinion is, we go to war till the last soldier will fight to death, and but this is unfortunate. Even today, if we see Azerbaijani social media, before the war, 90% of the social media postings were against Aliyev and his regime. 90%. It was like about corruption, about dirty money laundering, about family issues. Now it is taboo, without saying that even if you write something, criticizing Aliyev, you would be attacked by Democrats, even by people who were most critical layers of society, who were completely against this regime. But now it's very unpopular even to say something against Aliyev or his regime, because people say it's not time. We are at war. We have to be consolidated. We have to be strong together. And there is even less space for liberals, for people who have open-minded, who want peace between two nations, to play the role. It's even difficult for people like me. I believe that we could have reached peaceful solution to the conflict. And I believe that it is better to liberate 3-5 regions peacefully than by losing hundreds or thousands of young people.
Thank you, Arif. Leyla, I want to close. I know that we're very busy, and I want to close by talking a little bit about any kind of movement that you see or hear about. It seems like right now there's just talks about talks. And where do you think we might be in re-upping or bringing back those possible peace talks?
Unfortunately, the very essence of the negotiation process and the fact that it legitimizes the military gains as the tools of bargaining tools, it doesn't undermine the military way of resolution, and that's why it encourages the other country to basically, go to the very end in order to restore the territorial integrity, because the negotiation process, as I said, that it shows that international law can be changed. If you are powerful, you can change international law. And unfortunately, under such conditions, without changing the substance of negotiations, which means that every subject which violates the law should feel the consequences, should feel the adequate pressure, whether it's Azerbaijan or it's Armenia. I mean, there is no what I call the normative uncertainty. There is no normative framework which enforces certain norms in this process. So it's not just about the co-chairmen and whom they belong to. I mean, so it's about the very substance of the negotiation process and so there might be two scenarios. One, the countries now decide that too much blood and they should go back to the negotiating table. The other one can be continuing fighting, but also negotiating peace. So why they might not stop fighting is because there are no guarantees that once you stop fighting, the other party does not reconsolidate, prepare, and be better equipped for the next counterattack. So there is this huge distrust, and because the military way was not delegitimized, it's always there. So some experts consider there should be an agreement between Russia and Turkey. Some experts consider that there should be a powerful engagement of the US. Some people consider that two countries should just talk to each other. So that's not clear at the moment, but Aliyev already voiced his vision. He said that Turkey and Russia should agree between each other. His most recent statement was Turkey and Russia should agree between each other. We will see.
Well, we can only hope. Thank you very much, Leyla. Arif, do you have any final thoughts about peace talks?
I do agree with Leyla on her evaluation, but I want to, one of the options with Russia, as Aliyev said, Russia and Turkey should agree, but then the West will be out of the picture. I don't want this to happen. I believe that the West involvement is very important, and neither of this side, one side is, if Russia and Turkey are the players, one is not, they are not at least supported by one of the parties. I know that Armenia's condition, Pashinyan said that we are ready for the talks, but Turkey should be out of the picture. So now I believe that the West should be there. The European Union should step in, and I believe that France is not considered as the neutral broker, but I see that Germany tries to play the role. We see German diplomacy is more active. They have at least channels of communication with Turkey, which is very important. We have seen the German parliament passing having discussion on Nagorno-Karabakh, and position is very neutral. They also demand withdrawal of occupied forces from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. So Germany is another important country, which is for now out of scene. But I believe that if Germany would step in, it can be honest broker, which would be supported by both Azerbaijan and Armenia. So, but for now, the picture is not very, very nice, but I hope that something should be done before it's too late, because the war, the more it goes on, the more it's difficult to stop. Because the casualties make people more angry. People get, they at certain point, people stop thinking about death and life, about economy. Economically, both sides are pushed back 10 years back. Nobody would invest to Azerbaijan and Armenia after what happened. Security of the pipelines are under question because they were firing, so that all these big projects like TAP are now under serious risk. Tourism, even small things like tourism and infrastructure. So economic development. In the times of pandemic, when economies have been seriously damaged by that, now we have this military spendings, young people dead, and there should be compensation to the families, and many things. I believe that when we will wake up, we'll stop. One day we will stop anyway. We will be terrified by the damage, economic, political, military, moral, human, and others. And I don't see anything good coming out of what happened during this fighting.
Thank you, Arif. I believe there is too much blood already, and it is time. It is time. The time has come to stop. And whoever gets involved, whether it is the US or, as you said, Germany, Finland, Norway, the world needs to take a look at this and say, this is enough, this needs to stop. I want to thank you, Arif Shakmarli, former Azerbaijani ambassador to the COE and the European Union, and Leyla Aliyeva, Russian and East European Studies affiliate, Oxford School of Global and Area Studies at the University of Oxford. Thank you both for your insights. You have helped me understand this, and I'm sure you've helped many people watching as well. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Bye.